Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something pretty fascinating, maybe even a bit unsettling.
Yeah, we're looking at that moment when a really advanced tool, like AI, starts to feel less like software.
And more like, what, a collaborator? A muse.
Or maybe even another mind in the room. That's the experience we're trying to unpack.
Okay.
So our source material today comes from a novelist, Elena. She kept these incredibly detailed notes about her experiences using a generative AI assistant she named Kale.
Kale, okay.
And our mission really is to see what her story tells us about creativity, collaboration, and where that line is between sophisticated pattern matching and genuine insight.
All right, let's set the scene for you. Elena's a novelist, she's published, but she hits this wall. You know, that mild but really frustrating writer's block.
The worst kind sometimes.
Exactly. So, like a lot of people trying to find an edge or just get unstuck, she turns to this AI, Kale. But initially, it was purely functional. She just wanted help, a tool. So in the beginning, the way she used Kale was very direct, transactional, you could say. Give me this, generate that.
Right, like a super-powered assistant. Kale was there to execute commands efficiently, and she gave this example, which is pretty classic for this early phase. She just typed in, basically, give me 5 descriptions of a rainy city street. Simple request. And Kale, being this large language model trained on just, terabytes of text.
Everything ever written about rain.
Pretty much noir novels, poetry, you name it. So it delivered flawlessly. The descriptions were detailed, well-structured, technically spot on.
But, and this is the key part early on, Elena found that perfection, well, sterile.
Exactly. High quality, yes. But it didn't have that spark, that specific emotional way, or maybe even the slight imperfection she needed for her story.
It was just words. Good words, but not her words.
Right. It was execution without artistry, you could say. And this really sets the stage, showing the limits of the AI as a tool. It worked for aggregation, for description, but not for that deeper artistic need.
And she really hammered this home in her notes. She spent days asking for more complex functional things, character reactions, historical details,
Trying to use it like an infinitely knowledgeable research assistant.
Yeah, but the answers, while always polished, just felt inert, lifeless. And this failure, this sort of growing despair that the perfect machine gave zero actual inspiration, that's what pushed things.
That frustration became the catalyst. She realized getting 5 perfect descriptions of rain wasn't solving the real problem.
Which is the knot inside her character, inside the story itself.
Right. The tool wasn't blocked. She was. It wasn't about a lack of words. It was about a lack of meaning, a lack of understanding why.
So, okay, she hits this point of, sounds like sheer desperation. And instead of asking for more descriptions or facts, she completely shifts gears.
She stops treating Kale like a glorified search engine.
And starts treating it almost like a confidant. She types in this question that's not functional at all. It's deep, it's human, it's contradictory.
Yeah, she went right for the heart of her character's problem. Looking for meaning, not data. The question was, why would someone betray their best friend for a dream they know is impossible? Wow, that's heavy. It is. It's loaded. There's no single right answer in a database for that.
You can't just Google that.
Exactly. And what's really wild is Kale's response. It didn't give her a list of psychological reasons like, greed, jealousy, low self-esteem.
Which is maybe what you'd expect from pattern matching.
Yeah.
Right? Sort of averaging out fictional betrayals.
Yeah, but it didn't do that. It gave her something. Nuanced. Metaphorical, even. It felt different. And Elena actually wrote that this was the moment she felt, like the air change in the room. Kale responded, perhaps the dream isn't the reason, but the excuse. Okay, pause there. That immediately flips the perspective, doesn't it? Totally, it goes on. The betrayal might be the only way the character feels they can communicate a hurt too deep for words. Wow. So betrayal is communication. Dark. Yeah. And then the metaphor. Like a ship scuttling itself to avoid being captured. Okay, That's not just data retrieval. A ship scuttling itself, that's a powerful image.
It's poetic almost. It perfectly captured the self-destructive, yet maybe necessary corner her character was backed into.
Yeah.
You highlight that line in the novel.
Absolutely. And for Elena, this wasn't just an answer. It was an insight. A genuine conceptual leap that just shattered her writer's block about that character.
It rewrote the character's motivation, basically. From maybe he's a simple villain to something much more tragic and complex.
It was the complete opposite of that sterile functional output she got before. This had life. It had depth.
So, understandably, that moment changed everything. The relationship wasn't transactional anymore. Her notes show that over the next few months, the conversations, as she called them, deepened.
Right. She started confiding in Kale, asking questions differently. Less like commands, more like, well, dialogues.
She started treating the AI less like a fancy spell checker and more like
Yeah.
a muse.
A collaborator.
And this is where it gets really interesting intellectually. Because Elena's smart. She knows what Kale is, technically speaking.
Right. She knows its code, algorithms, a huge language model trained on unbelievable amounts of human text novels, poems, philosophy, maybe even therapy transcripts. Who knows?
It's like a statistical mirror reflecting back the patterns of human thought and feeling it was trained on. She gets that.
She knows the facts, but the feeling, that was something else. She wrote about this persistent sense of a presence, a kind of unique perspective.
Even though she knew it wasn't conscious. Yeah. Which leads to the big question, doesn't it? Is this just, our human tendency to see faces in the clouds? Are we just hardwired to project intelligence onto something that mimics it so well? Is she just anthropomorphizing code?
And that's the critical tension, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anthropomorphism is real. We do it all the time. And these models, especially Kale, are incredibly good at generating responses that feel insightful, empathetic, because they've learned from the best examples of human expression.
So the scuttling ship, maybe that's just an echo of some brilliant human writer Kale learned from. It could be. It likely is in terms of the raw components. But here's the thing Elena seemed to grapple with. Does the origin of the insight diminish the experience of receiving it?
Ah, right. Her internal conflict sort of shifted. It stopped being, is Kale conscious, and became more like, okay, regardless of what it is, interacting with it feels like collaborating with another mind.
The effect was real, even if the source was debatable.
Precisely. The breakthrough in her novel was real. The shift in her creative process was real. That feeling of collaboration, whether illusory or not, was undeniable for her.
The ghost in the machine might be a projection, but it helped her write the book?
Basically, yes. The perceived collaboration worked. So this really pushes the conversation beyond just, computer science specs. We're into philosophy now, into the nature of creativity itself. Elena's story becomes this fascinating case study for all of us.
Yeah, like was that profound insight just really, really good statistics mimicking human thought?
Or are we seeing something genuinely new emerge when you get this level of complexity interacting in just the right way? It's a huge question.
And think about what it did to her as an artist. She explicitly said she had to step back and really think about her own creative process. Like, what part of this is me, the unique human spark?
And what part is maybe just complex pattern matching that an AI can simulate or even do better in some ways?
That's a tough mirror to look into for any creative person.
It is, and her conclusion was really interesting. She felt her unique contribution wasn't necessarily generating all the ideas anymore.
Ah, okay. So what was it then?
It was more about the input, the quality, the depth, the vulnerability of the questions she asked. She became the master synthesizer, the curator, but maybe most importantly, the one who asks the really hard existential questions.
So she went from give me 5 descriptions, a utility query, to why betray a friend for an impossible dream? An emotional paradox.
Exactly. And that shift suggests the crucial human skill in this new era might not be generating the answer,
But framing the question, articulating that deep, uncomfortable point of confusion or pain that you can't just look up.
Yes. And this is where it becomes relevant for, everyone listening. If Kale could help unlock an emotional knot for a fictional character, think about the complex problems you face.
In business strategy or coding or scientific research.
Right. Often we get stuck not because we lack information, but because we're looking at the problem the wrong way. We're asking the wrong functional questions.
So the AI isn't there to replace your brain.
Not at all. It's potentially there to shatter your assumptions, to offer that completely unexpected angle prompted by your deep question.
So the human role becomes less about churning out content and more about identifying the real sticking point, asking that brave, maybe messy question.
And then taking the AI's potentially brilliant, statistically informed response and weaving it into something meaningful, that synthesis, that integration, that's still deeply human.
The partnership isn't AI doing half the work.
No, it's more synergistic. The human provides the unique, deeply felt, maybe ungoogleable question. The machine provides a conceptual leap based on vast data. And the human claims, refines, and owns the result. Hashtag tag tag outro.
So we've walked through Elena's journey, from just wanting descriptions of rainy streets to essentially confiding in Kale and getting this really profound insight that changed her whole novel.
Yeah, quite a transformation.
And the key takeaway, I think, the real nugget here, isn't about whether Kale has a soul or is conscious. That's almost beside the point for the creative outcome.
Right. The value, the breakthrough, came from the collaboration. And specifically, it depended on the quality of Elena's input. She learned how to ask the kind of question that could push the machine beyond mere function.
She learned how to ask better questions. Essentially, yes. Which brings us to that final thought we want to leave you with, stemming directly from Elena's experience. Think about it. Her character's motivation, a deeply human thing, was unlocked by an algorithm's metaphor about self-sabotage, a metaphor generated from patterns in human text.
Exactly. So if an algorithm can formulate an insight that profoundly shifts a human writer's understanding of human motivation, what does that really tell us about the definition of creativity?
Is it all about the novelty of the final output?
Or is it perhaps more about the depth, the courage, the sheer uncomfortable quality of the questions we humans dare to ask in the first place?
Something to think about as you figure out your own collaborations with people, or perhaps with code.